Oh, hello, all you beautiful people. What are you doing? Finally, Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support for everything that we do at Major Spoilers by pointing your browser and signing up and joining the rest of us at patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. How's everyone doing on this Friday? Friday today? I'll get it out. Don't worry. October 23rd. One more Friday to go this month, and then we'll see how the rest of the world goes after that. I got some things to talk about today. Cold in Kansas, says Scroll Brian. I don't know. I got up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 this morning, and went out for my walk, and it was 32, something like that, 32, 33. With a wind chill of about 20-something. I just put on some sweats and a pullover, and I was fine. And then I made a dumb move and said, for whatever reason, I had a bunch of built-up energy. And so at 2 o'clock this afternoon, I went and did another walk. This is 44 degrees then. And it feels like, it says it's going to be clear throughout the day. Now, tomorrow morning, it's going to be cold. It says 25 for the low tomorrow. So yes, cold in Kansas. Have some things maybe to talk about a little bit. Following up from our conversation from last week, where we were talking about Inktober and expectations for Inktober and all of these things. And it started me thinking about genre theory. You guys familiar with the good old genre theory? I mean, the genre theory has evolved over the years to what its current social theory is about. But essentially, we study genre as a branch of critical theory, especially for movies. And we see how that genre can be used to communicate. And there are a bunch of different genres, right? And with those genres come very specific expectations. You know what to expect from a Western, you know what to expect from sci-fi, you know what to expect from action, romance, etc. And if you didn't know what all the film genres were, let me bring these up really quick. Because there's a very specific list. I know a lot of people get them mixed up. This list on Wikipedia doesn't have... That's got the extended list. There's actually a short list of the main film genres. And they are action-adventure, comedy, crime and gangster films, drama, epics or historicals, horror, musicals and dance, science fiction, war, and westerns. Those are the main genres that we are concerned about. And so when you watch a war movie, you know what to expect from a war movie, right? Takes place during some kind of major conflict where people's lives are in peril, oftentimes studying the human condition under times of extreme stress. And because we know that when we do something in a specific genre, a film in a specific genre, when an audience, we go in, we know what to expect. We go into a Star Wars film, we know what to expect from a Star Wars film. We know what to expect from a fantasy sci-fi movie. When we watch the romance movie, we know that boy falls in love with girl. Girl falls in love with boy. Boy gets girl. Boy loses girl. Life goes on. It's when we can mix up the genre, and we can smash genres together. I mean, look, Blade Runner is a perfect example of sci-fi mixed with, a procedural or an action film. And we can get something new. And we can smash a comedy up with a Western, and we can get Blazing Saddles. It's when we take that genre and we twist it a little bit that we get something new. When we defy what audience expectations are, that we get something that's magical that works. One could argue that the Coen brothers do this a lot with a lot of their genres, right? The Dude. What is that movie? But that's a crime detective movie. That's your noir detective thriller. But it's boiled into a comedy. So what does this all mean? How does this apply to what I was talking about last week with Inktober? And you can go in. There's some really great, fascinating academic papers that have been written on genre theory and why it's important to study the genre and what does it say about our current state of mind and our current society. And you can go and look at all of your favorite films and put them into their categories of genre and see what are the tropes or what are the expectations in those films. And it brings me back to Inktober and what starts in the next week and a half from now, NaNoWriMo, where everyone is sitting down and trying to write the great American novel in a month. And like last week when we were talking about Inktober and just the whole process of Inktober is about getting into a rhythm, getting into a habit, getting into, making yourself better, but not comparing yourself to everyone else. Same way with NaNoWriMo. It's just getting you into the habit of writing and giving you a challenge. If you don't succeed, that's fine. But what happens after? What happens after you finished Inktober? What happens after you finish NaNoWriMo? And you want to do something next. What comes next? And for many people, it is, maybe I can take my drawing skills and I can go and get a job in the comic book industry. Or maybe I can take my novel that I have written and maybe I can sell it to a publisher. And this is where you need to find out who your audience is. One of the things that you can do with genre theory is you can find out who is that audience, who is the target market for your work. And I think a lot of people don't think about that as they are creating. When I'm creating me, the person, our fictional character who's going through some midlife strife, person sits down and says, well, I obviously have a knack for drawing, therefore I have to go and do the Batman comic at DC, or the Superman comic at DC, or Spider-Man at Marvel, and that's the only thing that I can do. And so they go and they submit their work, maybe go to a portfolio review at a comic book convention, and the person sitting behind the thing is like, well, this is good, but it's not Batman good. It's not DC Comics good. It's not Marvel good, but keep working on it. And in a few years, maybe you'll be ready for DC. Maybe you'll be ready for Marvel. Maybe you'll be ready for something at our company. And people go away so dejected by that. Same way with the NaNoWriMo people. Well, I submitted it to, Publishers Clearinghouse or whatever the big publisher is, Random House. And they rejected me. Said it wasn't for them. Well, now what do? I feel like a loser now. If I can't go and work at DC, if I can't go and work at Marvel, if I can't go and work for the major publishing house, if I can't go and work for the major podcasting company or the major, web company that's out there, I'm a failure. And my self-worth goes spiraling down into the toilet. And my argument would be, you haven't identified who your audience is. You haven't identified where your product, the thing that you are creating, who's going to be interested in that. And I think you can sit down and you can break it down, kind of like genre theory. Who are the people that watch these things? What does it tell about society, about these particular groups? And you can apply that to finding your audience. If you're someone who can draw, really cute, cartoony characters, but you have difficulty drawing a real human form realistically, then yeah, maybe DC and Marvel isn't for you. But I bet your skills might be useful if you're drawing kid-friendly type stuff. maybe you need to approach some YA book publishers, a Boom or a IDW Publishing, who are always on the lookout for that kind of stuff. Maybe the book that you've written isn't the next Tom Clancy novel. Maybe it's a horror novel that has no business at Tom Clancy Publishing, or whatever the publishing company is. Or maybe the superhero book that you wrote is not really best suited for the company that only does horror books. I guess what I'm saying here, in a roundabout way, is that find out what your talents are, find out what your skills are, find out what you like to do, and then go and find your audience. Your audience is out there. I know your audience is out there. I like to draw horses. Great. I guarantee you there is an equine lovers art forum somewhere that you drop some of your art into and people are going to go nuts for. And you are going to find your fan base that way. But you're not going to be able to go to People Magazine and say, hey, look at these great horse drawings that I have, and expect People Magazine to publish it. And even if they do, don't expect a million billion people to come crawling at you saying, we need more equine photos. If you can draw a horse, then great, because I hear that drawing horses is one of the toughest things ever in the world. Jess the Red says, I have a friend who writes for a very specific tiny corner of gaming. He knows that. So he self-published and advertised to a specific small corner of gaming. And my guess is he got a pretty good response from that small corner of gaming. And listen, that small corner of gaming may still be 1,000 people. Maybe it's 5,000 people. Maybe it's 500 people. But if there are 500 people willing to pluck down, $2.99 or $5.99 for that book that you've written for that small corner of the gaming market, guess what? You're going to find an audience. One of our writers over at Major Spoilers, Robert, did you know that he writes Doctor Who books? Well, not technically Doctor Who books, but stories about the Brigadier. Apparently it's in a public domain, kind of weird copyright venue. And so there's a whole genre, a whole subgenre of books out there that are all about the Brigadier and his adventures. And I think Robert writes about, he's got I'm sure he has more than 5 books. I think he has somewhere around 10 or more books that he's published about the Brigadier. Because he knows that character and he has found his audience. Now, will that maybe someday springboard him up to writing a Doctor Who novelization? Maybe, who knows? But right now, he has found his niche. He's found his audience. And it used to be we could go to a place like Tumblr for artists, and you could have your art out there, and people could discover your art. What was the other one that was really popular for art? I can't even think of it now. But artists used to use it all the time. Maybe they still do. We just don't see it as much. DeviantArt. That's what I'm thinking of. Just the Red says, oh yeah, he did get a good response. And his books go for more like $25 a pop. I would have to ask, but he would be at least a 5,000 sales mark. Like 5,000 copies, that's great. If he does $5,000 a book at $25 a pop, that's not too bad of money. Some people would say that's really good money. Right? Especially if he's self-publishing. And if he's doing it all electronic, then, he doesn't have the cost of printing, so that means his profit margin isn't even higher. And if he can get 4 books a year, and each one of those is selling for 5,000 copies, woo! That guy has found his niche in his market. And I know many of you might be sitting there going, especially those of you who want to get into the writing, 5,000 doesn't seem like a lot. 5,000's a lot. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the follow there. Marlo Reynolds, thank you. Yeah, it's ongoing income for him. That's right, says Jess. But if you had 5,000 followers, there's a great book out there called, what's it called? 1 million? Let me find my book here. I think the problem that I'm getting at here is that people are not working at finding who their audience is and expects that once they create, that the audience will just find them naturally, and that's not the case. You have to go out and actively work to find your audience. And once you actively work to find your audience, then that audience will work and spread the word and get more people interested in what you're doing and following what you're doing. And you'll get more people drawn into that. And of course, now my Kindle is updating, so I can't get the book open. All right, let's see if we can get this to open. Sorry, I should have had this open earlier, but it just popped into my mind. I believe the name of the book is called 1 Million. 1 Million Followers. And it's all about finding that audience. Oh my God, this Kindle is the crap worst. Click on a button, wait 5 seconds. I don't have time for that. Neither do you, dear audience. All the cool peoples. But I would say that... Let me go over to this other Kindle. That's not the category, sorry. I want to find it for you guys. So that you know exactly which one it is. Well, crap it. I believe it's called 1 Million Followers. Or Getting to 1 Million. Something like that. You can find it. And it's talking about finding your audience. And, your audience that you may think is maybe not the mainstream audience that you think you have. And you can look at a bunch of creators from all walks, and you can find out they probably started in a very niche area. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I think you guys get to where I'm sorry. I'm a little distracted today by too many people trying to message me while I'm trying to do a show and many other things on my mind. My audience is people who need a surveying engineer. I have no talent at writing or drawing. Well, so you need to go and find where the survey engineers are at. Right? Where are the people that need that survey engineer? Is it the public works people? The Corps of Engineers? Are they looking for it? Are you the best darn survey engineer that there is? Are you making sure that the dams don't collapse and the roads get built and the bridges are structurally sound? Are you the best one that there is of that? And if you're not, what are you doing to become the best one of that? And then you need to sell yourself little by little. You're not going to stop step into the top engineer spot of the world on your first outing. You need to work at it a little bit. Show your worth. Show your worth and show your work. I believe it is 1 million by Hertzberg. So whatever you have to do to find your audience, that's how you're going to succeed. And once you succeed, well, not succeed, but once you find your audience, then you need to go and work towards your audience. And I'm not saying that every time you need to cater to the audience, although that is something that you need to think about, is the product that I am making, is it targeted toward the right audience? Maybe this discussion today is maybe not specifically targeted at people who like reading comic books and are into pop culture. But I think that the lines of intersection where so many people want to be involved in Inktober, so many people want to be involved in the comic book industry, so many people want to be writers and go out there and write. I think this conversation does intersect into that area. And maybe it's a little bit deeper than some of the other YouTube channels where they're just sitting around talking about, well, I heard this week that the Fast and the Furious, the final movie's coming up, and it's blah, 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 and I heard a rumor, and blah. Let's have a conversation about something that maybe is a little bit more important. Kevin Smith, again, I keep going back to Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is someone who understands his audience. And after 27 years of Clerks, after its release, he has figured out exactly what percentage of his audience will buy into what he's selling. So if he wants to do a movie about a guy who gets sewn up in a walrus suit, if he wants to go and do a thing about a killer moose up in Canada, he knows what percentage of his audience is going to buy into that. And everything that he does is specifically driving that audience, trying to reach out to that audience constantly to say, hey, here's this stuff that you guys want. It's a little bit kind of like building your brand. What do people expect from you? What do they know from you? What do they know you from? If they were to sit down and open up your product, your structural engineer manifesto, your comic book, your indie comic, your small published book, indie published book, whatever it may be, do they know what to expect? Or are they going to say, oh yeah, I know this guy. Yeah, I know everything about him. I've watched him on TV. I've seen him in the movies. I know exactly what to expect when I read his book. And then you read the book and you're like, it's not anything what I expected. Just the Red says, but I'm known for yelling about things on Twitter. That's not a great place to start. Probably not. I mean, there is something about grooming your social media to make sure that if the right people are looking into you a little bit more closely, that your media isn't going to be something, your social media isn't going to be something that offends them. And I've known people that within the last year have made last year and a half, have made a huge effort of going back and scrubbing their social media to remove things that might even be slightly construed as controversial because they're courting someone for a big gig. No, that's what you have to do. That's what it is. It's 1 million followers by Brandon Kane. But I think 1 million is also one too. I don't know if yelling is the way to attract attention. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if this makes sense to everybody. It's something that's been noodling around in my mind for the last couple of since last week. Oh, hey, here's some stuff that came in the mail. And I thought I wanted to share it with you. Of course, I don't have a knife or anything to open it up. Some of you may have seen this on the internet, on the Twitter. James Bricknell is he does 3D printing stuff. So yeah, here's me. Here is somebody who is a creator. Actually, I've got 2 creator projects. Here is someone who is a creator who is reaching out to his audience, me, to show and share something that he has made. And I think you should follow him. I don't remember what his Twitter is. Just look up James Bricknell. And I think it goes up this way. Let's go to the overhead. Overhead, 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 overhead. Look at this. Look at this. This little shield that he has made for Critical Hit. He's a huge Critical Hit fan. If you saw the Randus little spider robot guy that we ran a year or so ago, he made that completely out of 3D. And James has done the same thing with these little emblems. You know, this has got a little bit of everything. There's some Ket imagery. There's some Sakaar imagery. There's some feathers. I hope that didn't break off in transit. I think that's how it's supposed to be. Some Randus things, some Aurum things. 3D printed. All that cool stuff. He said they were some variations. They all look the same. Yeah, some of the feathers have come off in transit. But I think that is really cool. That is really neat. Here's another one. I think these look to be exactly the same. I will have to let him know that some of the feathers have come off in transit, but still very amazing, very neat. And I think you should go and track James down and see what he's done. That's pretty amazing stuff. And I hope that when you guys follow him, you'll maybe want to have him commission some work for you. He's very talented. I like his stuff. So thank you, James, for that. He had contacted me a couple of months ago, maybe about a month ago, and said, hey, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? And I was like, totally cool. And then there's another one that came in today. This is from my friend Mark Spagnolo. You may know him as the Wood Whisperer. And if you don't know him as the Wood Whisperer, you should go and follow him on all the socials as the Wood Whisperer. Mark understands his audience. Let's see what I can pull in here. And I think I've shared, he's actually got a video on this. I don't know which one I got. Whoop, there's a card in here. This is something that Mark has made, and it is a very nice, I think this is zebra wood, dice tower that he has made. He's even got it flocked on the inside. I don't have any dice here. I'd chuck them down the chute. But look at that. Let's go to the full cam. There we go. Look at that. Look what Mark has done. That is so nice. Then it comes apart, and then you can just, oops, close it down like that. Chuck it in a bag. He's got his little brand down there, the Wood Whisperer. I think this is really cool. I'm very excited about this. I was totally surprised when Mark reached out to me, or actually Nicole, his wife, who I've known also for a very long time, but I've known the Spagnolos for years. And he said, hey, check this out. And he's got a video on how he made these. And if you are someone who wants to make your own wooden dice tower, it's a pretty simple project, to be honest. He sells the plans and the instructions on how to make them, and you can get your own. So here's a little card. He says, this is from Mark. Hey, man, hope you enjoy the dice tower. It doesn't randomize as well as I'd like, but it looks cool. Hope you and the family are doing well. Aw, thank you for that, Mark. Look, he's even got little cards and a little sticker, too, that I'm going to put on my iPod or on my iPad. So, Mark understands his audience. Mark has found his audience of people who want to learn how to do woodworking. And he's built his entire business up over that. And if you haven't looked into Mark's past, it's very interesting in everything that he's done. I mean, he started out as, I think, bioengineering or something like that, and then was fed up with it and became a woodworker and reached out and found his particular audience of woodworkers who are interested in his ideas and concepts that he makes. And he's done quite well for himself. But he didn't try to go after this old house renovation people. He didn't try to go after, the crazy modern people who are doing wood bowls like, what's his name? Now I completely missed his name. I see it right in my mind, but he does a lot of wood bowl making and craft making that way. Marcos is a furniture maker. And he does some great work for that. And he's found his audience in the type of work that he does, inspired by the now I can't even think of their names, but the arts and crafts movement. And so he's found his audience. How are you going to find your audience? Well, think about the things that you like. Think about the things that you want to pursue. Think about the things that you want to make, create, do, whatever that may be. And then just go do some searching. Go search high and low and find out where your group, where those people, they may not be your fans yet, but go and find out where those people hang out. It used to be very easy in the Usenet days. You could just go to recarts.woodworking and you'd probably find a whole bunch of people hanging out there. But I bet they're out there somewhere. Start becoming involved in that community. Start talking with the community. Your first post should never be, hey guys, I got a podcast. You should come check it out and buy my merch. Get to know the community. You let the community get to know you so that when it comes time, at that one perfect moment, you were like, hey, you guys were talking about this topic. I just did a podcast about this last week. I would be honored if you guys would come and check it out. It's also great to like your work and make a lot of money and be miserable. Oh, than to make a lot of money and be miserable. Hey, you can do great work and like your work and still make a lot of money. Just a Red says, is this an extension of conversations you've had with students? A little bit, although we haven't gone into... We talk specifically about the 4-quadrant process as it comes to writing your movies or coming up with your ideas. And a 4-quadrant movie is one that hits all the quadrants. The 4 quadrants are male 18 to 45, or 18 to 25, males over 25, females under 25, females over 25. And as you come up with your log line, or as you come up with your ideas, which one of those 4 quadrants does your movie check? And an ideal movie, the one that Hollywood is always looking for, is one that hits all 4 of those quadrants. Titanic would probably be an example of a movie that hits all 4 of those quadrants. Avatar would probably be one. Star Wars would probably be one of those. But yeah, we kind of talk about that. You got to find your audience. You got to find your audience. And once you understand who your audience is and what their expectations of you are, then you can create all sorts of things. I make decent money and have a lot of free time. That was my aim rather than all the money. There you go. If that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. The point of all this is, especially following up from last week with Inktober and pushing yourself to make yourself better, it's then the next step would be, you're not going to go work for DC. You're not going to go work for Marvel. You're not going to have the #1 published book in the world on your first attempt. You need to go and find who your audience is and share your work there. And then you will get those followers, and then you can make more work for them, and then they will want to buy stuff from you eventually. And then slowly, as a creator, as an artist, as a writer, whatever you want to call yourself, you slowly start to build up your audience, and then you'll slowly start to see some profit in your work, if that's what you're truly into. Or at least get response from your work. All right, I think that's where we should probably wrap things up this week. I hope you found this interesting. I know it's a little rambly. I had some other things planned for today, but, sometimes at the last minute things get torpedoed and you just kind of have to roll with it. Next week, though, it's all about conspiracy theories. And I've talked about conspiracy theories before. I've talked about my love of Art Bell and then what happened after. I'm going to kind of come to grips with that a little bit next week. As well as, I don't know if I'll be able to get a guest in next week or not, but someone has come up with a really great concept that talks about conspiracy theories and puts it a lot more into perspective for me in the way that I'm trying to describe when conspiracy theories no longer become fun. But we'll talk about that next week on Finally Friday. I want to thank everybody for coming to hang out today. If this is your first time, thank you so much. Or I'm sorry. Maybe that's what I should say. But I hope you'll come back next week when it is once again Finally Friday. It's going to be the Halloween Eve, right? Or whatever that they call it. I think they call it Friday. Anyway. Yes, exactly. Squirrel Brian knows who I'm talking about. We'll talk about that next time on Finally Friday. Until then, do good. Be good. Wear your masks. Be nice to everyone in your community. And we will see you all again next time when it's Finally Friday. Let's take a look at some of these awesome people here. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. It's been an interesting day. Get a flu shot, I already did. Yes. Don't forget, if you are a patron, at the gold level or higher VIP live chat on Saturday, 1 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Lots of information to share. Oh, hi there, Mark Smith 72. I didn't see you come in.